My little pony, my little pony. I have a confession to make. I actually never really got into MLP, though I couldn't help but wonder, what if they were evil? So I'm gonna redesign 3 of the main 6 ponies as villains today, and oh boy, let me tell you, they are slaying. Literally. Starting off with Rarity. In this version of the story, Rarity is a famous fashion icon and designer because, of course she is. Pretty much everyone knows her name or has at least seen her face in the magazines or the news before. I wanted her to have a very lanky but elegant kind of look to her, so for the full body drawing I paid a lot less attention to anatomical correctness than I usually would, and focused more on the flow of it all. To complement that, I gave her a long mermaid dress that's very form-fitting to accentuate her unrealistically slim waist and broad hips. Since this version of the story is supposed to be a bit darker than the original, I decided she would be the kind of celebrity to get high on her fame while simultaneously not believing she's pretty enough yet. So she is either constantly wearing a corset whenever she's outside, or she sacrificed some of her ribs to the god of wasp waistlines via plastic surgery. Maybe even both. Wasp waistlines. Dude, why do I always have sentences like this? Her personality in my AU is very self-centered, hungry for money and fame. She wasn't born into a rich or famous family, but she got noticed by one of the other ponies, we will get to them in a bit, who decided to give her the funds and connections to start her fashion career. However, that wasn't quite enough, and Rarity was desperate to make things work out, so she resorted to, less ethical means of beating the competition. That is to say, literally beating the competition. Though she's not one to beat people up, so backstabbing is a more fitting term. None of this is known to the public though, and if something did slip out, her lawyers made quick work of it. But still, some people with intel believe her to be the local mafia boss, controlling what goes on in the back alleys of town from the shadows. This isn't quite true though. While Rarity does work with the mafia, specifically to launder money for them, she's just a pawn in their game. A very fancy one, but a pawn nonetheless. Her outfit is supposed to resemble a unicorn as a reference to canon Rarity, but the horn is just a tiara that she can take off anytime. I added some fur sleeves, not sure if you can call them that, since unicorns allegedly have fur too. I also had a fun idea to add a piece of fabric hanging off from the back of her dress to resemble a horse tail, and I wrapped that piece around all the way to the front of the dress just so it's more obvious that it's part of the dress and not an actual horse tail. Her hair and makeup are always done perfectly when she's out in public. She wants to make sure that she's ready for pictures from any angle. Rarity can't have the public see anything less than perfection after all. Let's talk some more about the design though. For the color scheme, I pretty much went with the OG purple, white and blue. I gave her very fair skin, which is partially due to her being rather sickly. And on top of that, I gave her white sleeves and a collar. I think she herself wouldn't like being this pale because she'd be afraid of people seeing she's sick. So part of the reason she dresses in white is so that it's less obvious how pale her skin actually is. The fabric that's supposed to look like a horsetail is colored similarly to her hair because, you know, it's supposed to resemble her hair. Originally I wanted to give her black roots like she dyes her hair, but I ended up abandoning that because I thought the way I shaded it looks nicer without the roots. Her dress is supposed to be super sparkly, which I didn't manage to do that well on the full body, but it turned out really great on the close-up. It looks like she probably leaves a glitter trail wherever she goes. She has a bunch of embroidery in blue, purple, and gold on her dress to give it a royal touch, but guys, I think I found my new nemesis when it comes to things I hate drawing. Embroidery. It looks so freaking cool on pictures and clothes, but by god, drawing that shit is hell. Which is why I also kinda just did random scribbles instead of trying to define the actual patterns. Props to anyone who actually renders out embroidery because I'd rather yeet myself out of the window. Now let's get to the close-up. You may have already noticed that Miss Rarity has a little bit of a nosebleed going on here and wondered what that's about. I already mentioned she's sickly, and this is how I wanted to show that visually. The close-up is essentially her wiping the blood away, noticing she's being watched and freezing up since this is a moment of vulnerability she doesn't want anyone to witness. I wanted her to look slightly confused, but also disturbed. Fun fact, the reason I gave her the little pouch she has is so that she has somewhere to carry around tissues, medication, and maybe a concealed weapon, just in case she gets into a tricky situation. So you guys better be respectful or she's gonna make you bite the bullet, alright? Yeah, Rarity isn't really sure why she keeps having random symptoms like the nosebleeds, feeling weak, fainting, etc. Originally she assumed it was from working too much, but it never got any better even when she tried taking it easy. She's been to 1 billion doctors, and you know she went to the expensive ones with all the cash she has, yet none of them agree on why she's sick or what she should do about it. Nothing's really helped her so far. It's a mystery we will discuss later. For the close-up drawing, I changed a couple of things on her outfit, mainly to fit the pose better. I removed her unicorn tiara and the fur sleeve shoulder thingies, and gave her a golden ear cuff that makes her ear look elven-like. Her actual ears are human-shaped though. I tried to make her face look very sharp in this to make her look just a bit unhinged. It's the VildrArt channel, we draw sharp things here. I defined the embroidery a bit, which was horrible, made her dress sparkly, which was actually pretty fun thanks to sparkle brushes, and shaded her hair, which now looks edible as hell, and I am so unbiased because purple is not at all my favorite color. Ahem. I added the nosebleed and voila, that's Rarity. Can you guess who we're redesigning next? That's right, Fluttershy. Everyone in town adores her and thinks she must be protected at all costs. She's nice to everyone and a little bit clumsy at times. Everyone loves her except for those who know what she's actually like. I started off by giving her a very innocent and shy looking pose with a fitting expression. However, this is just a front she puts on because this is a VildrArt video and I need my scrunkly evil characters. Fluttershy's outfit is pretty much based on the idea of looking very cutesy to hide her true colors, which are red like a river of blood. I'll explain all her secrets once we've talked about the design. I experimented around with a bunch of different skirt and dress options, but I also really wanted her to wear a jacket that gives her just the tiniest bit of a formal look, and might make you wonder if she's not as incapable and shy as she wants you to think she is. And to add to that vibe, I also gave her the kind of hat you'd see on a police officer or on a soldier, but it also has some flowers and her cutie mark butterflies on it. I made her skirt have this kind of curve to it, like it's being pulled upwards on one side. I'm not exactly sure what you call this, but it looks cute, especially with the bow on there. You may also notice the little thigh strap peeking out from under the skirt, which is very likely there to hold a weapon, or 3, but more on that in a moment. Like Rarity, I wanted Fluttershy's outfit to stick close to her original pony colors to be recognizable, so I went with light yellow, several shades of pink, and a bit of blue for the butterflies on her outfit. I went back and forth on her hair color a bunch of times, but eventually settled on pink for recognizability. Now for the close-up and Fluttershy's hidden side. I wonder how many of you guessed this, but Fluttershy is the actual mafia boss of the town. Yeah, that's right, Fluttershy. Cute, little, innocent Fluttershy. She's killed people, she's had people kill other people for her, and then killed the people that killed other people for her. That's not a convoluted sentence at all. She's been running the whole town from the shadows, and not a soul suspects her because she just looks like she's not capable of committing any crime, let alone running a whole gang. Personality-wise, and this time I mean her real personality, she's cold, pragmatic, and manipulative. She knows what you want to hear and she uses it against you, just like she did with Rarity. Fluttershy was in fact the one to give Rarity the funds to jumpstart her career, knowing that Rarity was desperate to do anything in return. And if she wasn't that desperate, well, blackmail would do. If someone poses a risk to Fluttershy's business, they get disposed of without a second thought, which puts Rarity in a tough spot because Fluttershy isn't gonna let anyone who knows as much as she does leave. So the only chance Rarity would have to get out of this situation would be to take out Fluttershy herself, which Rarity thinks is impossible at this point because of her sickness. However, Fluttershy isn't the complete embodiment of evil. She does have a soft spot for animals, and she owns a big animal shelter, which she visits whenever she has time. I can see her using a good part of her revenue to keep the animals there happy and healthy. But yeah, this is pretty much the only good thing she does. She still murks people. I really wanted the dichotomy of Fluttershy's looks and her personality to come across in the close-up drawing. I wanted her to stare at you with soulless eyes that scream, "One wrong move and your brains are on the floor," which I think I achieved pretty well. One trick I use for this type of expression is to draw her eyes lidded, so it covers a lot of her pupil while the bottom of her iris is not touching the bottom lid. This tends to give characters an unhinged look. I used some Attack on Titan screenshots as inspiration for this because I love the horrifying expressions of that anime, though I honestly never thought to have Fluttershy and Eren Yeager side by side in my reference files. I really love the line art for this one, not even gonna lie. The face and the hair especially. Oh, by the way, if you like these drawings or my art in general, you can now support me on Patreon. You get access to HD files of a ton of my art and other cool perks for as little as $2 a month. I also post unedited time-lapses of my art, exclusive work-in-progress posts, as well as PSD files of my art, and a bunch of other stuff. So if any of that sounds good to you or you want to take a look yourself, go check out my Patreon with the link in the description. You could report your phone, social media, and PC with my HD art, or get my line art files to color in yourself. I'm also gonna add the beginning of this audio recording where I try to sing the MLP intro for 2 minutes straight, and it was very funny and very stupid. And if all of that wasn't enough to convince you yet, there's extra rewards for the first few people to join. But of course, if you don't want to or aren't able to become a Patreon, you're already supporting me a ton by simply watching my videos, so either way, thank you. Now back to the villain redesign shenanigans. As you can see, Fluttershy also has a gun in this drawing, which is mildly threatening. I imagine this Fluttershy is very good at using firearms, and she tends to stay ranged when she needs to take someone out herself, but it would be a different story if she needs to intimidate a person. In that case, I'd imagine her inviting them to a talk, sitting down with them and threatening them with a smile on her face. Her pet bunny Angel could also be her bodyguard in this AU. He would always be there in case someone attempts to fight Fluttershy in close combat, since she is still pretty small and not super muscular, though I guess she could also carry some close-range weapons around with her that can take someone out with a single nick, like poison knives. But back to the drawing itself, I actually removed her hat for the close-up because I thought it would obscure her face too much. So I replaced it with some butterfly jewelry in her hair, which looks super cute, honestly, and goddamn, this sure is a combo with the psycho look on her face and the gun. Now for our last redesign in this video, Twilight. Yeah, I picked the 2 ponies that have purple in their color scheme, and my girlfriend's favorite pony. Nobody's surprised about the lineup. In my weird evil version of MLP, Twilight went down the path of being a hermit nerd and never really went out of her way to socialize with other people. She doesn't really know what friendship or love is, nor does she care to find out. She got perfect grades in school, enrolled at a prestigious university, and became a renowned biochemist. However, all of this wasn't enough to feed her insatiable curiosity, because good old Twilight here has an obsession with death and the many ways that lead to it. She's always wanted to find out how high a dose of certain chemicals someone could take before showing symptoms, or until meeting their end. Which of course is not something she could casually test without getting put behind bars or into a psychiatry. But then Fluttershy came along with an offer that Twilight couldn't refuse. She could have her unethical research so long as she'd use the results to help Fluttershy keep certain people under control, or alternatively to get rid of them. I wanted this Twilight to be a bit more androgynous looking, so I aimed to give her a body type that's more rectangular. I made her pose symmetrical for a bit of an uncanny vibe, like she's telling you about an experiment, but you're not sure if the experiment might end up being you. For her hair, I went with some very blunt cuts that mimic her OG pony hair, and it kind of ended up looking like a messy Hime cut, which is a haircut I think looks super cool. Editor Will here to add some afterthoughts on my Twilight design. After finishing this, I thought a bit about how I tend to draw black people with straight hair, which I think comes from the fact that I live in a predominantly white area where straight hair is just the default. I don't mean to use this as an excuse, but it's an explanation at least. But yeah, for future videos, I want to try my best to represent other hair types more. That said, for Twilight specifically, it was also because of her canon haircut being straight. And just because she has darker skin doesn't have to mean she has kinky hair, since there are plenty of people of color from different corners of the world with her skin shade who do have straight hair. That said, let's get back to the video. Then I gave her glasses. I imagine she cut her eyesight short by staring at books, screens, and decaying bodies the whole day. Her eyeballs don't have it easy for sure. And you know, she's a scientist, so I had to give her a lab coat. I didn't want to at first because it's so cliche, but also she'd literally wear a lab coat, like come on. Underneath she's wearing a turtleneck and I added this weird shirt color part, but I ended up getting rid of that later because it's just so random and looked out of place. I gave her a hip pouch to carry various chemicals in. I imagine you'd want to stay as far away from those as possible, unless you have a death wish. Color-wise, I pretty much went with her OG colors, aka mainly purple with the exception of her coat being white. Alright, now you guys probably remember me saying Rarity has some health issues that the doctors can't explain. Coincidentally, we have a crazy scientist here who loves messing with poison and works for someone, Fluttershy, who doesn't want Rarity to become a problem for her. So yeah, Twilight is poisoning Rarity to keep her under control. As you do, you know, casual. Now, I never paid any attention in chemistry class, so if any of you guys know more than me, leave your suggestions on what Twilight does to poison Rarity down in the comments. The only symptom that I really settled on was the nosebleed, since that's very visual, but feel free to come up with some other symptoms too. Now that we unraveled that little plotline, let's get back to the close-up drawing. Honestly, I don't have that much more to say about Twilight because at that point I just wanted to get the drawings done since I spent way too much time on these again. Looking at you, Fluttershy. For the close-up, I wanted to have Twilight looking really unhinged, but I wasn't quite sure what pose to go for. I ended up with her writing on a notepad while staring at the viewer like she's jotting down what symptoms you're having and how low your chance of survival is. I made her hair really messy and her glasses are crooked to fit the vibe as well. And that's Rarity, Fluttershy, and Twilight as villains. Who's your favorite? I'm having a really hard time deciding, to be honest. I really love Rarity's look, but Fluttershy's unhinged expression mixed with her cute vibe is so good, but also crazy scientist Twilight? I just love them all. If you enjoyed watching me draw these evil characters, check out this video where I designed some demon characters from my original story. Thank you guys for watching. Special thanks to my Patreons. Will out.